It's not a Lynon, it's not a Lynon, it's Lynon. Make decisions based on real data, not the ego. It's very simple. Be honest with your partners, be honest with your friends, be honest with everyone.
How to say, you're always trying to act as a mini psychologist.
I think the next generation of leaders will be defined by one key skill. They met him and took him to a penthouse, because failures themselves, they aren't bad. They're
It's kind of like setting up a puzzle.
maybe some field studios, maybe Netflix in their early 2010s. And in Lynon, we are trying to do the opposite. This is very important to do something different in our competitive market.
Kudos to that. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pitch Marathon Podcast, the show where we meet innovators from the iGaming world and hear their stories straight from the source. Galust Stepanyan, Lynon CMO, is here with us today to share his insights. Galust, why don't you kick things off by sharing a few words about yourself, your company, Lynon, and your product to our audience?
Hello, everyone. First of all, Maria Jan, I would like to say thank you for the invitation. It's really an honor to be in this interview series alongside with some strongest names in iGaming. So thank you, Maria Jan. Thank you, 18Peaches.
Ours, Galust Jan.
Also, I would like to say a small explanation about our name. You go spell it very correctly, but sometimes some people confuse. So it's Lynon. It's not a Lynon, it's not a Lyman, it's Lynon, and it came from the word to lean on something. So this is small explanation for some people to understand our names and to not confuse for the future. So what we do in Lynon, as you know, we are a very young company, just 1 year old. And our main focus is to provide a complete operational backbone for online casino operators. So basically we provide fully turnkey solution for operators. And our philosophy is very simple. We believe that B2C partners deserves a B2B partners and B2B companies that actually think like a business owner. That means we are not just simply delivering the projects. We work with operators every day to improve the operations, optimize cost, and of course, to help them to create a unique player experience, which in my opinion is one of the most important things.
Well, that's a great introduction. It really gives sense of mindset behind Lynon. Galus, now let's go back to the beginning of your journey. In which company did you start your journey in iGaming, and when was it?
I started my journey back in 2015, and I started my journey in BetConstruct. It was a live casino part, and I remember in 2015, in a live casino, we had like from 20 to 30 dealers. As per now, the number is like 1,000 plus, so it was very long time ago, almost 10 years ago in BetConstruct.
Wow, kind of amazing to see how much the industry has grown since then. And now you're running things in such dynamic space. Galust, what makes Lynon different from the other companies in your niche?
Shortly, personal approach. Because every month we hear some stories that the operator leaves provider X because of the weak customer support. Another is struggles with the back office limitation. Another is tired of slow delivery and missed commitments. And these issues, I believe, they don't happen because the technology is bad. Sometimes the technology is bad as well, but mostly they happen because some companies focus just on selling, not on building. And in Lynon, we are trying to do the opposite. We are building a platform that truly fits each operator's preferred markets, and it's fully localized. That means stable performance, strong customer support, continuous improvements, which keeps operators operationally and legally safe, which is very, very important. And it's not only thing, we also believe that modern platform must offer unique and powerful in-house tools. So that's why in 2025, we built the bonus constructor, which was awarded as a best bonus engine in Sigma-ROM. We built a complete gamification suite, which is our spinner winner, which is also very nice and very important. And of course, multifunctional and market localized back office. And these tools are not the tools that is nice to have. These tools are solving problems that operators facing every day with the bonuses, because it's very important for the operators to build the bonuses very simple, without any coding, without any developments, just with the simply drag and drop, so they can build very fast, and that grows the operation.
So I agree on that, since I truly believe that in this competitive market, the companies that win are the ones that fix the problem that everyone else ignores. And I love that, focusing on real problem rather than just selling a product. The mindset definitely ties into leadership, which makes me curious, what's the one skill you think will define the next generation of leaders?
I think the next generation of leaders will be defined by one key skill. It's adaptive intelligence. Because, and in our world and in our industry, everything moves fast. And it's very important to have the ability to adapt fast in that chaos, to think clear in that chaos, and also make decisions based on real data, not the ego. So adaptive intelligence, I think, will be one of the main key skills for the next generation of leaders.
Absolutely, I agree. Adaptability is very important because I think truly, like being smart alone, it won't get the job done. Here, you really need to master the art of, how to say, quick thinking, decision making under pressure, and also like having strong emotional intelligence. Now, speaking of personal qualities, what's your personal secret ingredient that brought you to where you are today?
I don't think it's one ingredient, especially in business. It's minimum two ingredients, and it's not only in iGaming, in general in business. There is a movie, American Gangster. I'm sure you saw this with Denzel Washington, and there is a line which says one of the most important thing in business is honesty. So honesty and hard work, this is the two ingredients in business and in iGaming which brought me to where I am. And being honest, it might take you very fast to where you are. It will be a little slower, but slow and honest takes much further in the long run. So this is, for me, it's much more important to be honest with my partners, to be honest with people who I interact with. So honesty and hard work, the two ingredients in business
Yay.
and in iGaming especially.
Kudos to that. But it's also interesting because, the people you work with can also be sometimes unpredictable. What's the most unexpected thing you learn about people in this business?
The first thing that I learned, and I learned it from the beginning, that people are completely different from what they seem on the surface. It's in general like this as well, but in iGaming, it's very, very seenable. Let's see if there is some word like seenable. It's very obvious. And also another thing which surprised me, that how fast big opinions can be changed. So for example, if someone who said never yesterday can tell you, let's do it tomorrow, if you bring something valuable to the table, if you offer something that they want. So the opinions, how fast they can change, and the people, how different they can be from the surface you see. And when you're starting to interact with them, they completely different persons.
That's so true, Galust. Moving to next question, who and where do you think the 18 Peaches is nowadays? Who would you compare us to?
As I know, you're a young company as well, like 3 years old. And honestly, I'm thinking you're somewhere between the cool kids of iGaming and the studio that everyone keeps an eye on without admitting it yet. You are in that sweet spot where creativity meets smart business timing. You are in the right place in the right time. And comparing with some companies outside of our industry, I would say like maybe some film studios, maybe Netflix in their early 2010s. Not the biggest studio, not the loudest, but the one changing expectation through uniqueness, through storytelling, through culture. And the company that suddenly everyone says, these guys are actually doing something different. This is very important, to do something different in our competitive market.
Yeah, I would say for 3 years, you mentioned, yeah, we were doing some warm ups, but the games already are live from the beginning of this year. So, yeah, we're pretty like also new. And despite how much I dislike the world comparing, competing, but I love the comparison that you gave. It really shows how innovation and timing matters. Galus, let's switch gears a bit. You don't know who we will interview next, but which question would you ask a random C-level or founder about the iGaming industry in general, or something specific related to their activities?
The one question that always come in my mind, that I sometimes ask to my friends, some guys who are building a product or some companies, if you had to rebuild your entire product or company from zero today, with today's regulations, today's competitions, and of course with today's AI tools, what is the one thing that you would do completely differently? This is like very interesting question for me, because the guys build their companies back in like 10 years ago or years ago, and there were no these AI tools, there were no competitions, regulations, and everything. So This is the question that I'm asking everyone.
Actually, that's a question that really makes you rethink of a lot of stuff. Here we're speaking about the fundamentals. This one also was passed to you, Galust, by our previous guest. I believe that the driver of success is trust. The question is, how would you gain trust? What's your tricks to quickly gain trust?
If in two words, I would say honesty and transparency, because I very, very believe in honesty and transparency. And I believe that it's very important in business, because when you are transparent with your partners, when you are transparent with your people with whom you are interacting, you don't have anything to afraid of. You are free from fears, you are free from excuses. You don't limit yourselves. I mean, no one can tell you anything that you don't do. So you don't say one thing and doing another. You don't promise anything that you cannot keep. So if you combine all this, and if you combine and put it with the honesty and transparency, suddenly you gain trust with your partners. So honesty and transparency, it's very simple. It's really, really simple. Be honest with your partners, be honest with your friends, be honest with everyone. This is very important for me.
I would say honesty and transparency really are everything. You know, when you work closely with partners, you naturally start picking up this habit of really trying to understand people's pain point and problems, and then trying to figure out the ways to help, even sometimes if it's out of your scope or it's out of your current role. Of course, in your personal life, that can sometimes annoy people a bit. Like, how to say, you're always trying to act as a mini psychologist or something like that. But honestly, almost every person we've spoken during this podcast somehow keeps coming back to the importance of trust and transparency. And for managers stepping into leadership, what's one advice you would give to every new manager, a failure to avoid or good habit to adopt?
One key piece of advice that I give to every manager and everyone who asks for advice is to focus on building a good habits while learning from failures, because failures themselves, they aren't bad. They are very valuable opportunities to learn, and they are very good lessons. But it's also very important not to repeat the same failure over and over again. Turning a repeated failure into a habit, it can be very, very damaging. So the goal should always be to grow from each experience and continuously improve. This is my advice to everyone.
I agree. And kind of that's an advice that we can say it applies everywhere. Learning, adopting, improving. It is something generic that applies everywhere.
Yeah, you need to understand, as soon as you understand that the failures are really good when you are not repeating the same failure, but when you are failing, you understand why you fail, you learn from that failure, and you are not repeating the failure. So as much as you fail, as much you become stronger and you become more intelligent and, much more powerful. So fail over and over, but not repeat the same failure.
I agree. Fail, learn, grow. Galus, now let's talk about markets. Which market do you like most and why?
I worked almost with every market except the US market in my experience in my previous companies as well. All markets have their own characters, rules, and charm, but for me, Asia is completely different story, because the Asians are building the relationships and the partnerships based on trust, which is very, very important. And we spoke about the trust. For them, if you are going through the big businesses and you are going to sign the big deals, it's not a partnerships, it's becoming a brotherhood. So it's very important for them to know with whom they are doing the business. I have a very nice story with that my friend told me like few years ago, and it explains a lot about how Asians works. Few years ago, my friend has a deal with the Asians. So as soon as they signed the general commercials and general terms, they invited him to their country. So as soon as he landed, the guy like with the black suits, they met him and took him to a penthouse. So he walked to a room it was a very big room with a large table, and in the end of the table it was one man sitting in the end of the table. So he walked to that man. That man just looked at him. He prepared the presentations, he prepared the roadmaps, the numbers and everything. So he walked to that man. The man just looked at him and said, okay, just look at his eyes, and just simply said, okay. And that's it. The guys took him to airport and he came back. So the man was the owner of the company, and it was very important for them to understand with whom they are doing the business, who is going to handle the numbers, who is going to be the one who is going to run their businesses and run millions. Because the Asians, if you do a real business with Asians, it's millions and millions plus. So what I love most in Asians is their mindset, their belief in energy, colors, timing. For them, everything has a meaning and everything has an explanation. And as soon as you gain the trust, they can take you in very, very high. But it's very, very important for Asians to build the partnerships with someone whom they trust and they understand that you don't have any hidden agendas. You don't say something and doing something differently. In that case, they will not call you again, never. But if
Yes.
you gain the trust, if they trust you as a person, if they trust you as a business partner, and of course, if you can bring something valuable for them, what they are looking for, in that case, they can take you very, very high. So it's very challenging, but that challenge do the work much more important and much more interesting. So that's why Asian market for me is very interesting.
And Galust, their discipline, it always amazed me. Thinking about that, I realized that how actually cultures shape business. If you think deep, that you will see it's got a huge impact.
Exactly. The markets, I mean, all the markets has, as I told you, they have like specifications, but the Asians are completely different with everything, everything. So how you are going to give the infrastructure to a persons, to the clients, the thing that the line between partners and between the clients and between the operations, how you are going to operate, it's completely different and you cannot compare with any markets in the world. Asians markets builds experience based on thousands of micro details, and it's very, very important to understand when you're building a product, when you're building a company, you focusing on building the right details. Because when the details are correct, when everything you put, the small things are correctly, automatically the head and the thing, the main is going to be right. So focusing on the details, it's very, very important. And Asians, what they do, they're focusing on a very, very small details, but in the end you understand that details are the important ones.
It's kind of like setting up a puzzle.
Exactly. When you put the right puzzles and you put the rights, the puzzles by itself is going to be right.
I think actually that's a perfect note to wrap up today's interview. Galus, thank you for joining us today and sharing your insights and stories from the front lines of iGaming.
Thank you, Maria. Once again, thank you, 18Peaches. It was really nice to speak with you, and I think the insights will be interesting for the watchers and for the listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Galus. To everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good industry story or just someone who likes hearing smart people talk. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and of course, keep pitching.